Hey guys, this is the Stylecast. It's the second part of the French Revolution, and yeah, it's about to be on. Let's see what happens. Alright, guys, so the question for today is how is the French Revolution going to turn violent? Because it really is. It's crazy. The streets are going to run red with the blood of the non believers. I'm not even joking. Alright, so the revolution is going to bring about a period of reform, and then it's going to lead to a period of terror. We're going to learn a little bit about the reform today and how the reform ends up causing terror. That sounds like fun. Not so much. Alright, so here's the deal. The National Assembly is going to try to reform France. If you remember correctly, the Third Estate breaks away from the Estates General. They declare themselves the National Assembly, and they're going to set about trying to fix all of France's problems. One of the things they do is write the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. Interestingly enough, it's actually written with the help of Thomas Jefferson and is based on the Declaration of Independence. And one of the things they're going to end up doing is write this document that guarantees equal justice, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion, and it declares that government is there to preserve natural rights, life, property, and security, or liberty, property, and security. You may have heard that government's job is to protect the natural rights before, because that's pretty much the prevailing opinion of the time. So they're going to write all this down. This has absolutely no force. There's no law behind this other than the fact that the people in the Third Estate decided to get together and create it. However, they're going to end up taking over the government, so it is actually going to be put into place and then promptly thrown out. We'll see what happens there. All right, the slogan of the revolution becomes liberty, equality, and fraternity. They want freedom, they want everyone to be equal, and they want everyone to work together. Again, that's the slogan. However, in reality, it's going to kind of get all turned around, and it's pretty much not going to go down like that. Another thing that's going to happen is the government's going to take over land from the Catholic Church because they need to pay off debt. They figure if they get this land and then sell it off, they can use that money to pay off the debt. One of the reasons they do that is because they don't want to tax the bourgeoisie, because the bourgeoisie are pretty much in charge of the government at this point. So obviously they're not going to tax themselves or tax themselves more. So they're going to basically take land from the church. At this point, the peasants, who are very religious and very much tied to the church, they get a little upset, and they're going to oppose the takeover of the Catholic Church lands, which is why when we learn about the Reign of Terror in the next Outcast, you'll see that the peasants are pretty much the group that gets themselves beheaded the most. That's liberty for you. There is going to be conflicting goals, all right? There's going to be different groups of people who want different things. Obviously, that's the way politics works. So, France is going to end up writing itself a constitution, but they're going to keep the king in place. So they're going to have a limited constitutional monarchy, meaning the king is very much limited by what the constitution says. The National Assembly is going to take power and give it to a new group called the Legislative Assembly, and they're going to have the power to make laws. And they're basically going to force Louis XVI to just do whatever they say. Now, the Legislative Assembly is going to split into 3 different groups, all right? And they're all sort of against each other. They all have different wants, all right? These groups are called factions, and they're going to, like I said, want different things. Now, what are those 3 groups? 1, 2, 3. There they are. All right, the first one is the radicals. The radicals are going to want really big changes, sweeping changes. And these guys are known as the sans-culottes. Basically, the nobility in France wore these knee breeches, which are basically pants that go down to your knee, and then you wear like high socks with them. They refuse to wear that and that sans culottes means without, well, pants, basically. They had pants, just not that kind of pants. All right. Then there's the moderates. The moderates acknowledge that there should be some kind of change. They just don't want to take everything, erase it, and start all over. And then you have the conservatives who pretty much want to put the king back in charge. The radicals are eventually going to gain control literally by yelling the loudest. And this is going to lead to changes. Lots and lots and lots of changes. All right. Now, there's going to end up being a war, and there's going to be rather extreme measures taken to protect what is now France. For example, well, we'll see that. Here's the thing. Other monarchs around the world, or mostly in Europe, realize that this idea of revolution might spread to their own country, and they're going to support Louis returning to the throne. The country that specifically is going to be outspoken about this is Austria. Austria is significant because Marie Antoinette is from Austria. Her parents are the king and queen of Austria, so obviously they're going to want Louis to be returned to the throne. And they're basically going to do everything they can to undermine the revolution. The Legislative Assembly realizes that this is a threat, and they declare war on Austria. This is not going to go well. France doesn't really have a military leader in the government. They're really not prepared to fight a war, but they start one anyway, and it does not go well for France at the beginning, but eventually things are going to turn around because France's military is actually in pretty good shape still. And the radicals are going to decide that the king needs to be executed. There's a bunch of groups, mobs really, who control France by the summer of 1792. And the National Convention is going to abolish the monarchy. They're going to get rid of the king, and France is now going to be a republic, a representative democracy, basically. They take Louis, they try him for treason, and he is executed via guillotine. Above me there, see, that is Louis's death mask. If you've been to the Wax Museum, Madame Tussauds, in New York City or one of the other places around the world, Madame Tussauds actually got her start. She was hired by the National Convention to make death masks of nobles and other prominent citizens who had been killed by the guillotine. And basically what she would do would be like make a wax mold of their head, their face, after their head was chopped off. This way there was some kind of record to show what they looked like when they were beheaded. It's a little gruesome, it's a little creepy. Eventually, the National Convention is going to turn on Madame Tussauds, and she's like, you know what, I'm out of here. Grabs all her stuff, including the death masks of Louis, Marie Antoinette, Robespierre, and a few other, important French people, and she bounces and goes to London, where she ends up starting Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. So it's kind of interesting. Now you can go get your picture taken with like a wax Taylor Swift, but she really got her start, making wax dead guys. But anyway, he's tried and he's executed. France is still fighting foreign enemies. All right, at this point, Prussia, Austria, Spain, and Great Britain are all fighting France, again, because they want to show their countries that this kind of revolution is not going to end up working. It's not going to fly. All right, that is the end of the Stabcast for today. I'm just looking around. I think we're going to get through this one without any monkey interruption. That's pretty much all I got. You guys have a good night or a good day. I'll see you in school. Be good.